we'll do it next week. Hey everybody, welcome to Film Juice. Here we are, another week, another episode. Sorry about that intro. We were having a couple technical difficulties, but we'll probably have that one ready for you next week. Now let's get into these movies, eh, Joe?
Yeah.
First one, 5 Feet Apart.
Yeah.
What do you think?
So this movie follows this girl who has been diagnosed, or she's had terminal cystic fibrosis for her whole life. It's a genetic disease, and basically, like, it's a disease, if you're not aware, where your body produces like an excess amount of mucus, and it blocks up your lung, like stuff in your
Your lung stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
The technical term.
and it really messes them up over time, and yeah, you gotta treat it, and yeah. So, anyways, I'm not doing a good job explaining.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
But it's hard to summarize it. But anyways, basically, she's like basically living in this hospital with these 2 other patients, and she meets this guy who is Cole Sprouse, who is played by Cole Sprouse, and yeah, then there's this whole love story, and
he has cystic fibrosis as well,
and they have to stay 5 feet apart because if they are any closer,
well, they have to stay 6 feet apart.
Yeah, yes.
But they decide together in the movie that they're gonna squeeze that down to 5. They're gonna take a foot back, which I liked. I thought that was a very nice thing or whatever. But let's get your initial thoughts on this movie, Joe.
This is an interesting movie for me because I'm a sucker for these kind of movies. When they're done like at least somewhat okay. And this movie has a lot of issues. Be the first to admit it. I think it's definitely nowhere near a perfect movie or a great movie. But I think it's enjoyable enough with the cast it has and what it does get right that it's actually a really like fun movie. If you're into these kind of movies, at least. I think if you're into
I wouldn't use the term fun.
I'd say not fun. No, fun, fun. Not fun. Enjoyable. Enjoyable.
And
I would
even
say
that's
enjoyable.
a stretch if you ask me.
Well,
my biggest thing.
It's very emotional, but.
Well, okay, I'll just say my biggest thing right off the bat with this movie is, you know, it's almost 2 hours long. It's an hour and 56 minutes.
Yep.
The first 2 acts are just awful, in my opinion. I think they're just incredibly boring.
Okay.
And and I think that overall they're like directed pretty well and that sort of thing. But oh my God, just blah blah blah. Okay. So the first 2 acts are god awful, but the 3rd act is really good. Like really good, in my opinion. It's incredibly emotional and it's done so well.
Yeah.
I absolutely love the end of it. Now what I'm going back and forth with is if it's worth waiting an hour and 35 minutes or whatever, an hour and 25 minutes to get to the 3rd act. To have to sit through all of that.
Well, this is how I feel about the pacing of this movie. For me, I can see the big thing for this movie with me was the big drawback was the pacing slow. It is, for sure.
Painfully.
But I actually think the first act is actually not terrible pacing-wise. I think the 2nd act is slow pacing-wise. In my opinion, 2nd act, I'll agree with you.
2nd act's definitely worse.
2nd act's worse pacing-wise. But I think the way they set this movie up is actually really fast.
What aspect of it? Oh, just set up.
Getting into it, like they got into it really quickly, and I also think they set up like everything.
I don't think
they had to set up really fast. Yeah,
I guess so. But they set things up so fast that there was nothing else in the rest of the movie.
I think, but I think I think that's true. But I think it also gave a good amount of time to the It gave a good amount of time to the what's it called? The
I don't know.
The character development, and I think this movie had really good, maybe to a fault because it did get painfully slow in the 2nd act. I'll agree.
Okay.
But I think the character development was really good, and I think that's why the 3rd act works so well because of the character development. Like you really like feel for these characters. The 3rd act is really crazy. Like it's super tense, and
you know what?
It's really emotional.
I'm gonna disagree. The only character before the 3rd act, honestly, the only character that I felt emotionally connected to was Poe, played by Moises Arias. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Okay.
But he was in Hannah Montana like back in the day.
He was good.
I thought that he was maybe the best part about this movie, acting-wise.
Okay.
And I know you love your guy, Cole Sprouse, and blah,
no,
blah, blah.
I wouldn't even say Cole Sprouse is the best in this movie. I think the main character is the best part.
Sure, Stella, played by Haley Richardson. She's a great actress. I really liked her in a lot of stuff that I've seen her in.
I think she steals the show in this movie, personally. But, yeah, I don't know. I thought it was very touching. I thought it was a very touching movie. I agree that it's slow, but I think it was just easy for me to look past it because I just enjoy like these kind of romantic movies. I don't know. It's my guilty pleasure, but it was enjoyable for me to just like go through it and just like, and it made the third act way worse like to go through. Like the third act sucked, but I loved it.
I get that, but I don't know. I think that the third act is just so well done and well written that regardless of anything else, if I had just been shown that, I still think that it would have been very emotional because I didn't really feel a lot up until that point.
I guess, yeah, that's fair.
But like I said, I think that the directing is well done.
Yeah.
There's a lot of use of like natural vector lines, which is great.
They also, with this movie, they had to do a lot in a very small space. They only had a hospital for their setting, basically. And I think like the director made it interesting. Like they didn't stay in like
interesting. Yeah. Because you never feel enclosed.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a shame because maybe it'd be better if you did.
Maybe.
Like the characters, but
But also, I liked how literal they were. Very true to life with the cystic fibrosis, I feel like. With maybe not with the 5 feet apart thing, like it's obviously that you gotta suspend your disbelief with their relationship.
Sure.
But with like the actual disease itself, I think they did a really good job portraying it.
Which is, I mean, if you're gonna do a movie like this, then you have to do your research on
of course.
something.
I think they did it well.
Such a big thing.
Yeah, and I'm glad they did that. But yeah, I don't know. And I think the chemistry between the characters was good enough that it made the pacing like worth getting through.
You know what was weird? In this movie, there was just montage after montage after montage after montage. Did you notice that? There's one part where it's literally one montage that leads into another montage.
Oh, in the second act, yeah. So that was off-putting. But ultimately, Joe, what would you rate this movie? I'm gonna give this. I could see it getting lower for sure. If you don't like rom-coms or like any kind of romantic kind of movie, like you're probably not gonna like this movie. But I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. I think it's enjoyable. I think it's a fun time. It's an emotional roller coaster for sure. And yeah, it's crazy. I'm gonna give it a 5. And the 5 is basically all for the third act. Okay. That made the movie for me. Without it, I would have given it much lower. Like I mean, that's fair. I mean, I would have, the third act boosts it up for sure. No doubt about it. Yeah. All right, everybody, we're going to be right back, talk about Dumbo, so stick around. We'll see you after the break.
I'll be right back. Hi! You think you're probably sober?
Yeah.
But you're thinking about taking the back roads home, just in case. If you're probably sober, then why would you do that? Good choice.
Probably okay isn't okay. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
That's a full glass of wine. I'll be chatting you later.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. And as soon as I start to make my breakfast, Hamilton is right there. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. I mean, look at this little face. How could you not love him?
It's me, Artie. Come see what I collected from the Creative Galaxy in my idea box.
Transform your world.
Will you help me make art?
Before you throw it away,
Hey, I have an idea.
think outside the box.
Go be amazing!
Give your cardboard box another life. Recycle.
Welcome back to Film Juice. We're here. We're going to talk about the new live-action Dumbo movie directed by Tim Burton.
Yeah.
Loosely based on.
Loosely.
Did you know that it's actually based on a book? Like Dumbo.
That
as a
makes
whole?
sense.
Dumbo's based. I never knew that before.
That
It's
makes
based on a
sense.
book by Helen Aberson and Harold Pearl.
Yeah.
And of course,
didn't know
all
that,
Disney fans know it because they made the animated movie
Yep.
in 1941.
I wonder if this is more based off the book then.
I imagine it is. Not that I've ever read it, but for anybody who doesn't know, Dumbo is a elephant who is born into the circus, and everybody laughs at him because he's got these giant ears, and they think he's a freak.
Yeah.
Little do they know, he can actually use the ears to fly.
Yeah.
So suddenly he becomes a big circus sensation, and this character played by Michael Keaton, who owns like this very large entertainment park, sort of akin to a Disneyland or a Disney World, kind of swoops in and tries to buy out this circus that Dumbo is from, just so that he can have Dumbo for his own, just use Dumbo for his own purposes and everything. So, Joe, what did you think about this one?
Yeah, I'll start with what I liked about this movie and what I think the movie got right. This movie is a lot of spectacle. And I think when this movie gets the spectacle right, it's really nice to look at. There's a few scenes in particular during the circus acts where it looks really nice.
That's true. But even in some of those scenes, that look is fleeting.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I just like, I'm specifically talking about, there's a bubble scene. I like that scene a lot. I was like, that's a cool scene. Like, that looks really cool. So I liked that a lot. I also think out of everyone, I can't really speak for anyone else in the cast, but I thought Danny DeVito, with what he was given, shined in the movie. Thought he did a good job.
I feel like he was just playing Danny DeVito.
I think he was the best. I think he was better than everyone else.
I liked Keaton better than I liked
did not
DeVito.
like Keaton in this
movie.
movie.
I thought he nailed it.
But
I thought he really did a great job with the character.
He played the same character. I don't know. I just didn't care for
Keaton played the same character?
Yeah,
As what?
As he always plays as a bad guy. I just thought it was whatever. I don't know. He was whatever. He was just very bland in my opinion. But that's also how
not
they.
true at all.
I think it's also how they wrote him. I don't know. He was okay. But and then what the other thing, I thought Dumbo when he was on screen, I think whenever it focused on Dumbo, it was like okay, like it was like fine.
That's the thing. That's kind of what you want to see. And they bring in this whole storyline about this broken family. It's a Disney movie, so I guess they have to do that.
Yeah. They try to fit in some like veterans returning to home stuff in there, like in the beginning.
Well, you got to do that.
I know, it just came out of. I was just like.
I didn't realize that was Colin Farrell's character, who plays the father of the two children. Who, let me say this, the young girl who I'm sorry I don't have her name written down. You know. This might sound kind of harsh because she's a child. What a terrible actress! What a terrible actress!
Isn't she the lead in the Nutcracker?
No, that's
Isn't
not
that her?
No, that's not her.
Looks just like her.
But you know how much emotion she had in her performance? 0%.
Yeah, it was bad.
Just so.
I think
so
all the
terrible.
children, well, the two children in this movie weren't good.
And you know what?
Specifically him.
The boy
Or
who
her.
plays the son. I thought that he just was a poorly written part. I thought that was kind of.
He was barely in it.
But oh my gosh, that was unbelievable.
You know what this movie reminded me of? It was, and I think this is a great comparison. the Transformers movies, where they take what you want to see, the Transformers, and they put in this terrible human story into it, and most of the movie you're watching the humans. That's what this movie does.
You know what? I'm in on that. I agree with that.
What this movie does. And it's just all fluff. Like, so much of this movie is just fluff. And when you actually get to the stuff that matters with Dumbo, it's like you don't care because they don't focus on it enough. And,
no, exactly.
And I actually, like, it sucks because there are moments where you feel bad for Dumbo, but
very much so.
But it never hits the weight that the original did, because
completely agree.
The original the original held so much more weight because of how it focused on Dumbo and what it did, and that's because they didn't fit any of this crap in. Like, they didn't do that.
I agree with that, and obviously, you know, that animated movie is it's barely over an hour, so they have to stretch a lot of time in this. And this one is almost 2 hours long.
I think they filled way too much in it.
I agree.
Easily.
I agree.
They could have made it an hour 30 easy.
I completely disliked all of the side characters.
Yeah.
That were in the circus. And you know what? While we're on that subject, this might be a hot take, but obviously the original animated film, there are some things, mainly at the end, that are like, racist. And I think that there are parts in this movie, honestly, that are racist.
Yeah.
Like, I think that...
I wasn't, like,
and that
honestly,
was like,
I'm not going to lie, I checked out at the end of this movie.
The thing is, there's nothing... The look is nice. It's definitely very whimsical. But there's nothing that really makes this movie worth seeing. Like, there's nothing of exceptional value in watching this movie at all.
It's a very whatever movie. It's a very forgettable movie. I just seen this movie today.
That's almost an understatement.
And I think this movie is very forgettable. I forgot a lot of it already. The lighting, I did not like the lighting at all in this movie. Like, the lighting was so dark. And I understand this is a Tim Burton movie. And right when you watch this movie, and right when you see the theme park that they go to in this movie, you're like, if no one told you this was a Tim Burton movie, you would still be like, this is a Tim Burton movie.
That's true.
Because it's
very evident there.
And the music alone in this movie is Tim Burton. Everything music-wise, like you're like this. It sounds like a reused track from Edward Scissorhands, honestly.
I really wonder how much say he had in Final Cut in this movie.
It's not a bad thing, but it just, I don't know, man. I have not been impressed with his work recently at all, and I don't know, man. I want him to make something.
But I do like, I like the production design. I think the aesthetic of this movie is basically on point for sure.
I agree with that. I just think the lighting makes it look boring
a
lot of times.
The CG of the elephants, what do you think about that? I thought it was
I
think that there are points in the certain movements of the animals where it really doesn't look great, and it's just for like a flash or whatever. Yeah. But I almost feel like pushing all these live action films, like the technology is almost not to the point where they're trying to push it to right now. Yes. And if they just waited a little longer.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I think it was still passable. I liked how they went for a more cartoony, like CG route, making it look cutesy.
Interesting. On Dumbo, certainly.
Yeah,
I think that worked there.
On Dumbo.
So what are you going to rate it, Joe?
I'm going to give
How many juice boxes? Lay it down.
I'm going to give it a 5.5 juice boxes. It was passable. It wasn't like god awful. It was passable.
I don't know.
I could give it way lower. Like, honestly, the more I talk about, the more lower.
Yeah.
I should have gave it a 5, maybe even a 4.
I'll tell you what. I gave it a 5.5, and I feel like even there you could take off a point, half a point easily.
Oh, you gave it a 5.5 too?
Oh, excuse me. I gave it a 4.5.
Oh, 4.5.
Did I say 5.5? I gave it a 4.5.
Okay.
And I think that it could have been lower.
Oh yeah, I could see.
So if you're gonna go see a movie, I would not recommend going to see this one. I think it's kind of a waste of time.
This movie is so forgettable that the rating holds no weight. Like, it just doesn't matter. Like, this movie doesn't matter.
That's true.
Even if he dislikes 5 Feet Apart, like, I think you should still see 5 Feet Apart more than this movie.
Yeah, you know what? I'd have to agree with that, certainly. All right, we're gonna be right back with our throwback of the week. So stick around. You don't want to miss it.
I'll be right back. Hi! You think you're probably sober?
Yeah.
But you're thinking about taking the back roads home, just in case. If you're probably sober, then why would you do that? Good choice.
Probably okay isn't okay. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
That's a full glass of wine. I'll be chatting you later.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. And as soon as I start to make my breakfast, Hamilton is right there. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. I mean, look at this little face. How could you not love him?
It's me, Artie. Come see what I collected from the creative galaxy in my idea box.
Transform your world
Will you help me make art?
before you throw it away.
Hey, I have an idea.
Think outside the box.
Go be amazing!
Give your cardboard box another life. Recycle.
And we're back, everybody. Welcome back to Film Juice. We're ready to talk about the throwback. Joe, you've been wanting to do this movie for a very long time, maybe since we started this show. Christopher Nolan's Memento.
2000.
From the year 2000. Joe, why don't you tell everybody what it is about?
Oh God, this movie follows this main character who suffers from short-term memory loss. What's the main character's name? I'm sorry.
Leonard.
I can't remember. Lenny. Yes.
Played by Guy Pearce.
Yes. Lenny. He suffers from short-term memory loss, and he's basically throughout the whole movie, he's trying to solve his wife's murder.
Yes.
And that's the whole.
And get revenge.
Yes, and get revenge. He wants to kill the person who did it. And the whole movie, and the thing about this movie, the big thing about this movie is the fact that the whole movie is played in reverse order, and not in the fact that it's like reversed. It's the sequences of events start from end to beginning.
It's like there, and then it goes there, and then it goes back, and it's like it's an interesting structure. And one of the most interesting probably in the history of film.
Yeah, and the reason why it's like that is because you're supposed to be seeing the movie through his perspective almost. Like you're supposed to be living the events through his perspective, where he doesn't remember things.
That's a thing that I think this movie does very well. There are a few instances. Let me take a look at what I have written down.
There are a few instances. I'll agree with you.
It's strange because we see him do things that he doesn't remember.
Yes.
But we do remember him. Yes. So those instances are not as good in my mind as when we're figuring out the stuff at the exact same moment as he is.
Oh, of course.
That's when we're really connected to him, and that's when the movie is really at its peak.
What I will say about that, I'll agree with that. What I will say about that is they have to do that at some points though, because like there has to be things that the audience knows to show. So, but I do agree with you.
That can create its own thing. But I think for a movie like this where it's so intriguing because the character doesn't remember anything, I feel that in certain parts it would just ultimately be better to keep us, the audience, in the dark for most of the time.
After watching this movie, did you see a lot of similarities between, I guess, structure / like plot twist wise? Did you see like the influences that he like brought from this movie in Prestige?
Certainly.
Isn't it like it's really cool to see like how this movie's 6 years older than that movie.
Right.
I think it's just really interesting to see like the progression with this movie and that movie, because there's a lot of things that he takes editing wise and how he not how he really tells the story structure-wise. The structure isn't backwards, but he kind of takes a similar approach when he reveals the plot twists, which I think is very, very cool. But he does it a lot more subtly, obviously. It's not like laid out like this.
Right.
But, I don't know. This is like a good precursor to that movie. I think it's really cool.
You know, while we're just talking about movies that are similar, there is a movie from 1994 that I may be one of like 10 people to ever see it.
Okay.
It's called Clean Slate. Starred Dana Carvey, the Saturday Night Live actor, and that movie is about a private detective who has short-term memory loss and is working on a case, and he leaves himself notes and stuff very similar to Memento. And it's not that movie. Clean Slate is not super great. It's a little entertaining, but it's just so interesting to me because if you, I recommend if you have an interest, look it up. It's so interesting the parallels between these two, just how different they are. But I don't know. I wonder if Christopher Nolan or his brother, what's his brother's name? John?
John Nolan?
Yeah, John Nolan, who wrote the short story that this script is based on. I wonder if he saw Clean Slate.
Yeah, maybe. That's possible. That's interesting. I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
I want to say another thing. I loved the contrast between the black and white scenes and the color scenes. So the black and white scenes are all in the present, when the color scenes are all like, you know.
Not only was that great, but it was such a good tool to help the audience keep the timeline
it's so cool, and it's such a great way to flip the trope of it being like black and white's always supposed to be the flashback or in the past. I think it's just really cool that they flipped it on its head and it's in the present, it's in the future. I think it's really awesome. And my main issue with this movie, and I know this is the point, but it just bothered me. I didn't like the main character in this movie. I don't like him. I do not think he's likable, and I mean, he's just not a good vessel that the audience has to watch this through. I don't know.
I would agree. I get why you don't like. I don't think he's particularly likable either.
I think the point he's not supposed to be likable.
Well, sure, but I still felt like he was a nice vessel.
Yeah, I think he was acted well. I'll say that.
I like Guy Pearce.
Yeah, he's not in many.
No, last big thing he was in Iron Man 3. He was a bad guy in Iron Man 3.
Yes, he was. Yeah. Oh my God. And yeah, I just gotta say, the big thing about this movie is it is one of the most unique ways I've ever seen someone tell a story, and
no doubt about
it does it amazingly. And if you haven't seen it,
people always talk about Pulp Fiction when they talk about like breaking down the structure of film, but this one I think is a little more in that conversation.
Yeah,
right?
and I also love how there's an interesting way you can watch this movie you can watch the movie in sequence.
Yeah, there's
order.
You can find cuts of that.
It's really cool. But yeah, what would you rate this movie?
I'm gonna give this movie an 8 and a half.
Okay.
Very good, very good. But I think that's really what it deserves.
I could give it an 8.5. I'm gonna give it a 9. I haven't seen it as recent as you, so maybe I wouldn't like as much. But I really like this movie a lot, and I think the structure is so unique and well done. Like, I don't know, it's just really well done. So I have to give it a 9 out of 10 for that.
All right, maybe a little high, but I think ultimately that's pretty fair.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, that's going to wrap it up.
Yeah.
For us here on Film Juice. We are going to see you next week. We got some really cool movies to talk about. We're going to be talking about Shazam. We're going to be talking about Pet Sematary. Yep. It's going to be great. Woo! You don't want to miss it. So we will see you next time at the movies. Take care.